Greetings YouTube, this is Toy Customizer Wakeangel2K1 bringing you a special review of something that I never thought I would ever see. The Transformers Prime Vehicon. I have been seeing message boards light up all over the internet talking about how impossible this figure is to find. How it's one of the most highly sought after figures in the entire series, and how it's short packed despite the fact that everybody wants to army build it. And I just happened to stumble across one at the Bay Plaza Kmart in the Bronx. Funny how things work out, huh? So, for no other reason than sheer, like, I don't know what the word would be, that knowing how rare and difficult to find this thing is, I knew that I had to get it because I'd probably never see it again in stores. Of course, knowing the store that I bought it in probably isn't going to help because this was the last one they had and I have no idea if they'll ever restock this particular one. But hey, holiday season's coming up. Okay, so Vehicon is a really nice sports car. Looks German. Very, very hard angles, very sharp. The spoiler, actually, it moves a little bit. It's kind of cool. A little movable spoiler. That's nice. Size. These. Okay. Here he is next to Ratchet. Ratchet is about the exact same length. Their wheelbases are the same distance apart from each other. And they're even about the same thickness, though about the size of Ratchet. Of course, I gotta stop hitting that thing. That's my backdrop. This brings up the wheeljack thing. I used to think that wheeljack was supposed to be like what the Robots in Disguise line for Transformers Prime was like, and that everything else was small. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking that wheeljack was kind of a first edition figure, because you may remember the first edition figures were all bigger, and I don't know, like I remember seeing him on the display shelf next to the first edition toys at a Comic-Con 2011. So I think some were planning on launching him as a first edition, but he ended up coming out in the Robots in Disguise wave instead, making him an unusually big deluxe, at least in the vehicle mode. So, yeah. Okay, anyway, size aside, it's a very nice car. It has some good details, which my camera's probably not going to pick up. It's like black. This is a really black car, but it has some nice purple highlights. There we go. Purple highlights in the back on the rear bumper, and purple highlights in the headlights, little bit around the wheel, and a tiny Decepticon symbol on the front grille. Actually, let's take a nice high-resolution picture of the front of the car so you can see that in high detail. Despite being a shell former, this guy is probably one of the coolest Transformers that I've seen. I mean, the way that this guy transforms, I mean, you would categorize it as shell forming, but it's also one of the most unique and interesting transformations that I've seen in a long time. And I will show it to you in a moment, because first I want to show the weapon. This is a Vehicon gun. It's really nice. It's accurate to what you see on the show. I mean, it may be an unpainted piece of black plastic, and if you look at it from the inside, it's very hollow, but it's still, it's a good size, and it's a good shape, and it has lots and lots of detail. This is really a great weapon. It's right up there with Wheeljack's swords for show accuracy and, you know, being good. I mean, this is not floppy plastic. And it can be mounted in vehicle mode, although you kind of have to stick it onto the left side because if you put it onto the right side, then you have the hollow part sticking up and it doesn't look as good. Okay, transformation! So yeah, I'm speeding up to save some time here. Once you get the arms out of the way, you just completely peel the entire top of the car off. And that's where the shell forming aspect comes in. But what you see here, you basically roll the shell back up to form the legs. And then you take more plastic from inside the figure and fold it over to form feet, causing everything to lock into place. I've never seen shell forming done quite that way, but it really yields an incredibly accurate and solid feeling robot mode, which is a lot cooler than any other shell former I've ever seen. The arms are the only part that require a little bit of finagling, as there's some hinges in there, but the automorph head reveal is just as perfect as it was with Ratchet. The Vehicon's robot mode is quite possibly one of the best I've seen. It looks pretty much exactly like he does on the cartoon. And did I move my light too far away? I didn't want to oversaturate, but I don't want it to be too dark either. He has some light piping in the back of his head. When it catches the light well enough, his eyes can really glow. You know, it's funny how they seem to forget to paint on faction symbols so often, like RC, Wheeljack, Ratchet. None of them have any faction symbols that I've been able to identify, but the Vehicon has his Decepticon symbol right there in the center of his chest, just where it's supposed to be. And that looks good. So there really is no kibble on this guy. Like, there's no big shoulder, there's no big shin shell on his legs. There's really nothing strapped to his back except his rear bumper, which I'm pretty sure is supposed to be there. And damn, this thing is just amazing. I can see why some people would praise this as one of the best in the line, because I really think that it is. In terms of raw engineering, it probably is. I especially love the way that the legs are formed from the shell that was once the roof of the car, folded over itself like 3 times, plus with another layer folded on top of them. So it's like 4 folded layers of relatively thin plastic, which come together to form a huge solid leg that looks just wonderful. Okay, let's get a size comparison of him next to another toy that I've been talking about for a while. Yep, it's Wheeljack again. Some of you may be wondering why I bring out Wheeljack in almost every single one of my Transformers toy reviews, and that's because, well, for this line at least, I really consider him to be kind of the gold standard. Like, for the first wave of Transformers Prime figures, the Robots in Disguise edition that is, he presented the best show accuracy, some of the best engineering, you know, well, I really think he's one of the best in the line, so, you know, I bring him out to see how everyone else measures up to him. And I gotta say, Vehicon does so extremely well. You can see he's actually significantly taller than Wheeljack, even though his vehicle mode was much smaller, and that probably has to do to how you saw the roof of the car be exploded out so far. So yeah, what's fascinating is that both of these guys are so accurate to the cartoon's design, despite having almost the exact opposite transformation philosophy. Like I said before, Wheeljack has his parts made up from the car itself, so he has as many parts as possible made up from the car, so he doesn't have to worry about a bunch of kibble hanging off. Well, this guy is almost exclusively a shell former. I didn't think that shell forming could make a robot look so accurate to the show, but what do you know? Okay, let's move Wheeljack off to the side and take a look at the Vehicon's articulation. Okay, he has a ball-jointed head. He has a decent range, except for the forward posture. He can look up. Oh, the automorph kind of tends to move around, but you know, that just gives you slightly more range. Can't really look too far down. He can look to the sides, and he can do so without tilting his head too much. So yeah, nice, wonderfully expressive head. Shoulders, there's a hinge here, it's for transformation, and a ball here, which gives him lots of range. The fender here does not do anything to get in the way, unless you happen to catch the bumper, but that's rare. He has a swivel here, a hinge. His elbow is kind of weird in that there's an inward going hinge here, and then a ball here, but the ball really exists more to give him the upward. See, the hinge is what helps his elbow go in, although it can also go in the ball, it can also go in on the hinge. So the hinge gives him more side to side, and the ball gives him up and down. It's usually the opposite. The wrist, it can move up and down, it can fold away. That's part of his gimmick, you'll see. No waist joint, which is a shame because I really think a waist joint could have been fit into this figure fairly easily, just like they did with Ratchet. He has ball jointed hips, he has a swivel just under that ball joint, and he has knees. They go 90 degrees just fine, and he has no foot movement except that the toe can wiggle up and down. That can help him stand with a bent knee a little easier, but really that doesn't do too much. He doesn't have supremely awesome ankle rockers like Wheeljack, but he still has nice big heels on the back of his feet, so you don't have to worry about him falling. That's always a good thing. And that's Vehicon. That is... Seriously. This guy is just... I can't talk too much because I'm going to start gushing, because this thing is just that awesome. Okay, so let's see him wield his weapon. He can wield it two ways. One, there's a round peg here. It fits neatly into his hand, and then he's holding his gun. Of course, we all know that on Transformers Prime, they never hold their guns. The gun is part of the transformation of their arm. So you can replicate that look as well. You simply fold the hand in, and then you notice that there's a little divot in the door. Yeah, his arm is pretty blatantly a door, but that's fine. See that little divot right there? Well, there are little square pegs on the gun that go into that divot. Now, they don't go in very easily. It's a very tight fit, so permit me to get a little bit rough on camera here. There we go. And there we go. Now the gun is part of his arm. I mean, there's a little bit of daylight there, but it's pretty good. It looks like the gun has transformed directly out of his arm, just like it does in the show, and that's a really nice display. And since the hollow part is underneath, that means that you can have him wield it in his left or right arm and it would look just as fine. In fact, if you're army building these guys, then you can take another one's gun and put it in this one to make one dual wielding, and then you can have the other one be like a victim on the floor or something like that because he doesn't have a weapon. Ha ha ha. Vehicon. This is a really great Transformer, and if you can find one, because these things are so rare they might as well be made out of platinum or something, get him. If you have any kind of interest in Transformers, you're going to want this guy for your collection because he is just that good.